Okay, so I am aware that this has been a somewhat anticipated video for me to make in regards to Trisha Paytas. So I want to preface this video by giving a bunch of disclaimers that I know that people are going to actively choose to ignore. Number one, this is not a hit piece. Many people online and across the internet have been saying that this was a way for me to discredit Mysterious's work, and it's not. It's just an alternative perspective. Number two, there is no Mysterious versus Petty Paige beef, and for the love of God, stop trying to make one. Two content creators can have different opinions and perspectives without it being a versus battle or some kind of beef in any capacity. Number three, there is no Mysterious vendetta. I've seen this as well across social media prior to me actually making my video, that I have like some kind of vendetta against Mysterious. I don't have any Mysterious vendettas purely because I don't know Mysterious. I've never spoken to them. We've never had any extended conversation. I don't even believe we've interacted on social media. In order for a vendetta to exist, there would have to be history, and we simply don't have any history together. Number four, Trisha Paytas is not my friend. I can honestly count on like one hand the amount of times that me and Trisha have actually ever spoken a conversation or a piece of dialogue that's lasted more than one sentence. And furthermore, I have a catalogue of videos on my channel to do with Trisha Paytas. She is not my most favourite person, and I have dragged her consistently. So having a different opinion that maybe might be a little bit more supportive of Trisha Paytas and the things it is they've said in this instance doesn't make me a stan. I'm 30 years old, I've got 2 kids, I haven't got time to be standing a 33-year-old from America. Let's just call it what it is. I'm literally past the point of having that totalitarian way of thinking where it is either black or white. There are various shades of grey, and that's what I'm here to discuss in today's video, the spaces in between the truth and the lies. It really sucks that we live on an internet that is full of so much animosity that I even have to make a video disclaimer like this to prove my intentions behind why I'm making a video like this. But I have to when there are people and groups and blogs, etc. saying things like this, discrediting my work even before it's done, even before I've pressed record, even before I've said hello. And I don't know, stuff like that makes me think it's giving me very much scared. And when talking about SA and SA allegations, further information shouldn't make you scared in any capacity, and any more information coming out that could be a defense to SA survivors or victims should not make anybody uncomfortable, unless there's an ulterior motive. So let's go to chapter 1. So, chapter 1, how it started and how it was framed. So Trisha Paytas has been at the centre of controversy, as we all know, here on social media, after a video by a content creator called Mysterious went semi-viral or viral within the communities that actually care about this kind of stuff. With a deep dive video into Trisha Paytas, who they are, how they grew up, their middle school, their family dynamic, and why they have ended up the habitual liar we know today. As a top video posted in my Discord server, my audience requested that we watch this video together. And we watched episode 1, and when I tell you, episode 1 was insanely good. I personally love a depth of research, and it was clear to me the time and effort that was undertaken by Mysterious to do stuff like reading Trisha Paytas' book, videos that Trisha had made to cross-reference. And honestly, I that level of dedication to a story.
That was such a good video. Like, that was actually really, really good. If you guys are interested in watching this video again and going over some of the receipts, or even just going through and supporting this content creator, they've made this video, they deserve all of the views. It definitely took them a long time to put. I mean, I can appreciate hard work when I see it. Their name is Mysterious. They have 9.94k subscribers. They definitely deserve so much more. So go and subscribe, put the post notifications on so that you guys get updated about episode 2, as well as leaving a little comment for the algorithm. I would greatly appreciate that.
That was until episode number 2. Now, video number 2 for me was filled with so much presumptuous takes, personal bias, privileged ideologies, and just a total lack of understanding for victims of SA and what it is that they experience, how they function, and trauma responses. From the assumption that Mr. Riney was a great guy because he was a war vet, he received loads of different accolades, and was hailed by the community as a fantastic teacher.
He stopped teaching because he retired. This man is also a Vietnam War vet that was honored with a Bronze Star, which is a high honor. If you don't know what a Bronze Star symbolizes in the Army, here is a short summary of what it means. It is the fourth highest ranking award a service member can receive for a heroic deed performed in an armed conflict. For those who receive a Bronze Star medal, it is a signal of their sacrifice, bravery, and honor while serving their country. The other thing I want you guys to focus on is the awards that this man has gotten as a teacher and a coach. His obituary reads as, some of Mr. Riney's awards and recognition include 7 varsity letters in basketball and track with Loraz College, 5 times being included in the Who's Who of American Teachers, twice being honored by the Western Illinois University as a highly motivational teacher, and placement in Newman's Athletic Hall of Fame. This man was so well respected by so many people. So for Trisha to make such horrible accusations at such a well-respected man in the Byron, Illinois area, it just makes me so sick to my stomach. There is no way this man was doing what she claimed he would have been caught.
To the take that Trisha Paytas resided in a low crime rate area, therefore the chances of them being SA'd once was slim enough, let alone 3 times.
The cities in the USA, which means it's a pretty safe town. In Byron, you have a 1 in 1,196 chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime. So statistically, I can see something like this happening one time to someone in a town like Byron, but 3 separate times by 3 different teachers to the same victim, it just seems impossible to me.
To the other point of Trisha Paytas getting their information wrong about their teacher, Mr. Riney, who they alleged had been found with CP on his computer. So because that information was wrong, we should totally disregard the fact that Trisha Paytas even named this person as their alleged personal SA abuser.
They have lied about so much, you guys, and I could list everything, and we could be here all day. What cost are we going to keep believing everything that comes out of her mouth? A teacher that can't defend himself, a teacher that was well loved, a teacher that was never arrested, that had a perfect reputation in the community. What about the victims of Trisha Paytas? When are we going to start taking them more seriously?
Why don't we talk about the victims of Trisha Paytas? Why don't we talk about the victims of Trisha Paytas? There are plenty of victims of Trisha Paytas. There are loads of people who have been lied on by Trisha Paytas. Why are we taking this shit? If there was anywhere that you shouldn't have touched, it was this. There are plenty of victims of Trisha Paytas. This is social DID. That is one person that everybody has been crying out for justice for. We could have had a whole ass video talking about, you know, when she said that her personality switched. Maybe even compiled that with the whole situation between herself and Dr. Drew. All that kind of stuff. There was plenty of different ways we could have gone with this. But denying the voice of a victim, whether you believe them or not, is not it, ever. So at the start of episode 2, Mysterious starts talking about their copyright strike. And when watching this video live, I was a little bit confused how something so easily identifiable and Googleable had slipped under the radar, considering the level of research it is that I'd come to expect from Mysterious. So let's talk about it, the significance of the copyright claim. So Mysterious stated that they had received a copyright claim and that Trisha Paytas had made a claim against their video, citing various timestamps of Trisha's own content where they contradict themselves. The problem I had with this is that Mysterious hadn't actually in fact received a normal copyright claim, and what they had received was a content ID claim, as shown in the receipts that it is that they posted in their video. And the ID claim was done by a company that we've all come to learn to loathe here on the internet called Superbam. Now, if you are a content creator or a commentator who uses other people's clips without consent that falls under the Fair Use and Fair Dealings Act, then you will know this company and you will know that they frequently abuse the copyright system and claim literally anything that they can monetize. But I digress. If you know anything about Content ID, you will know that it is a piece of software that helps its users identify when their content is being used on a video without their consent. It auto flags any videos with the user's content and automatically claims it.
Content ID, on the other hand, is an automated copyright management system. For copyright owners, Content ID automatically finds videos that use their material and lets them claim it instead of submitting a copyright takedown. So even though Content ID has a lot to do with copyright, a Content ID claim is not the same as a copyright takedown notice.
However, after I posted online that what Mysterious had actually got was a Content ID claim and not your conventional copyright strike, and the fact that it was Superbam who were behind this Content ID claim and not Trisha Paytas themselves, Mysterious then went on to clarify via Twitter that what they had got is a manual Content ID claim. So manual Content ID is basically the same as Content ID but with some extra steps. So in the Content ID management system, you can select terms that the software will apply. So for instance, a company can state that any video that uses more than 30% of one of their users' original content, it will flag that up, but it will also need manual assistance in order to find the timestamps. And you got to remember, this is Content ID. It already maps out for you what video it is that it's been taken from. So there really isn't much hunting for the administration to do. So that means that Superbam would have to provide timestamps for the content used. However, as far as Superbam are concerned, if you use their client's work in any capacity, that's their money. So either way, I kind of still felt as if it was unfair to attribute these copyright claims that Mysterious had been receiving to Trisha Paytas in the background, menacingly rubbing their hands to take down a small creator when we all know how Superbam works. I've had Superbam do exactly the same to me with several Trisha Paytas videos, boop and boop. And I even have a dispute where Superbam felt that their claim was still valid. And I had to fight that in the YouTube copyright system, but I still won the dispute. Superbam also copyright claimed my Tana Moja content as well because she is also with Superbam. And they have worked exactly the same way with Tana Moja as they have done with Trisha Paytas, regardless of who the individual is that's claiming. Superbam are just the worst. So essentially they're working exactly the same way regardless of the creator. So why is this important? Because basically that set the scene for a natural, visceral reaction from the audience. That Mysterious was somebody who was trying to be silenced by Trisha Paytas. When the reality of the situation is that Trisha Paytas works with an awful management company that will literally copyright claim the breaths in between sentences if they feel as if somebody is taking their money. So after a good 40% of Mysterious's part 2 video being about the claim and what had been claimed, the second part of the video was the smoking gun. Towards the end of the video, Mysterious talks about Trisha Paytas and Mr. Riney. Okay, so just to bring you guys back a few steps, let's go to the beginning of the Trisha Paytas and Mr. Riney drama. On episodes 17 and 23 of Frenemies, Trisha Paytas talks about a teacher that allegedly them. They also made numerous TikToks talking about the alleges that are still up on their TikTok to this day.
I've always been vocal on social media because I was silenced, not to give like a silly reference in this, but I was silenced for so long at my school growing up. I had 3 different incidences with 3 different teachers in regards to SA, R word, and M word. Rhymes with vacation, but starts with an M. It happened in the school, and one principal didn't believe me. 2, I was too scared to speak up. And 3, the teacher said I was like asking for it. So it was like looked over. The one that I was too scared to speak up on, someone else spoke up years later and he ended up getting arrested. Byron, Illinois. Look it up. His name was looking up CP at school. And I finally have a voice for myself and hopefully others. I can never share your story, but I'll always be in support of the victims. I will always stand behind them. And I won't stay silent anymore.
Now, in the TikTok video, Trisha Paytas basically states that Mr. Riney was arrested for having CP on his computer and then tells their audience to look it up. So some people did just that and found a completely separate incident in a completely separate state in a completely separate school. And when you do find Mr. Riney, you find his online obituary as the man has sadly passed away. The perception by the audience is that Trisha had actively lied on a dead teacher and then went ahead and told their audience to look up that lie. However, as I watched the video, I couldn't help but wonder, why would Trisha Paytas tell a lie to their audience and direct them to this lie, which would actively discredit what it is that they're trying to say? At the time of posting this, Trisha Paytas has 6.4 million followers on TikTok. So when broadcasting to such a large audience, why would they tell such a transparent lie? And at least not expect at least a couple hundred people to check and verify that information. And for as calculated as Trisha Paytas is portrayed to be on social media, this would be an extremely stupid mistake. That to me honestly just leads me to believe that Trisha Paytas probably searched his name, saw the article, felt super duper vindicated and strong enough to share their own personal story about this individual and the experiences they had. However, the information they broadcasted was wrong. But according to Trisha Paytas' classmates, something may have happened, but it just wasn't that. So fast forward to after episode 2 of Mysterious's video. Ethan Klein must have been informed about the situation or heard about the video or even watched the video in regards to Trisha Paytas and the passed away Mr. Riney, and decided to post a public statement basically saying he took down episode 17 of the Frenemies podcast until Trisha further clarifies themselves. Now this is when we see an ex-classmate of Trisha Paytas from Byron Middle School come forward and share their experience and basically states that the same happened to them. Now before I get into this section of the video, I have to just give you guys another disclaimer. The disclaimer is that I can't give people's personal details. That would be doxing. So whilst I can show you what I can, which I believe is enough to be able to validify that this person is a real individual, what I can't do is then go out and spread their personal information on the internet, as they aren't public figures, nor do they deserve that kind of attention. So with that being said, let's go ahead. Now this classmate is called Morgan M, and they can be seen in Mysterious's video showing Trisha among their classmates in the school yearbook. They state that Mr. Riney was handsy with them too and would rub their shoulders to them as well as many other girls. They also state that he wasn't arrested for CP, but rather he may have been dismissed for having adult content on a school computer on school premises. They went on to state that their father was the police chief of Byron and doxed his name and their full name in order to prove that they are who they say they are. They even went as far as to contact their dad, who states that he vaguely remembers a situation like this, but he doesn't believe that any files were charged against him. Now when you search Morgan's name, you are able to find their father and his name, and that they both reside in Byron. You can also clarify that he is in fact the police chief of Byron. Morgan then went on to message friends in a group chat who also remember something similar happening with Mr. Riney, that he may have opened adult content at the school, and one person even named a student who was the person who reported this. There was also a girl in the chat called Rachel Redacted, who can also be found in that same middle school picture that Mysterious had posted in their original part 2 video. However, when Morgan came out and basically corroborated Trisha's claims that this teacher may have been a bit off, a lot of people then decided to come out to try and invalidate Morgan's story, saying a bunch of different things that honestly make no sense. So let's dissect them. They stated that Morgan's name doesn't bring up their father. They stated that the Morgan account was a bot who conveniently came out to defend Trisha. They stated that Morgan was also dead. They stated that Morgan changed their story multiple times before feeling the heat and leaving the internet. They also state that Morgan was hacked. So let's look at the first one, when they stated that Morgan's name doesn't bring up their father's name. Now, there are plenty of websites that bring up Morgan's father as the chief of police, and you can also find that a girl named Morgan is listed as his daughter. So I honestly have no idea where that lie came from, because it's something that's extremely easily searchable. I myself have had to look around and been able to confirm that there is TM, the father, MM, which is Morgan, SM, their mother, and their brother, who also has the initials of MM. Let's go on to number 2. Morgan is also dead. Now, when you search Morgan's Twitter handle, which is Morgan_V_redacted, and then go to Instagram and search that exact same username, you will find a young lady who tragically passed away in October of 2020. Now, upon further research, this young lady has a father who has a completely different name to the original Morgan. And also, they are much, much younger than Morgan. Now, the reason that Morgan doesn't have the same name across all of their platforms is because Morgan_V_redacted is their maiden name. They are now, as you would imagine, like most 30-something-year-old women, married, and they now have a married name. So when you search their married name on Instagram, ding, 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 you find Morgan. You find Morgan, you find the family, you find the father, you find her husband, the cosmetics business it is that they run, tagged photos. So that to me just shows that the girl who shares the same handle as Morgan is a completely different individual. So let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is that Morgan is a bot that conveniently came out to defend Trisha. Now, Morgan's account has been present as far as I can date back on social media from around 2012. They only deleted/deactivated their account after they allege people were contacting their father and contacting the police station, who she accidentally doxed. I don't think they really understood the magnitude of how crazy social media can really be. There are references to their Twitter handle speaking to people from Byron to other people who live in the Byron and Rockford area. This has been going on for several years. One in particular person is called Jeff Redacted, and when you go over to Morgan's husband's Instagram, in which Morgan is tagged in, one of Morgan's husband's mutual friends is this Jeff Redacted guy. However, you can't see Morgan's profile, just that Morgan was tagged by their partner, as even their maiden name handled Instagram has been taken down. So these are all real and legitimate people. Number 4 is that Morgan was hacked. A person by the name of @1D_Inc. posted this comment to somebody who was showing proof that Morgan was in fact a real person, as a lot of people were trying to deny on social media. And basically this @1D_Inc. character basically stated that they were Morgan's friend and that they resided in Byron, and basically said not to post things doxing Morgan, as Morgan has had their account hacked. Basically delegitimizing that it's even Morgan saying these things from their own account. Now, previous internet archives show that this @1D_Inc. person originally listed their account's location being in Sacramento, California. However, only recently they changed their handle to living in Byron, Illinois. Now, it could be possible that this individual may have lived in Sacramento and has since moved back to Byron, but considering most of their interactions from that account have been with anti-Trisha Paytas groups and individuals of no specific location, it does make me question the legitimacy of why they changed their location. Number 5 was that Morgan had changed their story multiple times. Now, when I tell you that I have searched high and low all across social media to find out where Morgan had changed their story or said something that delegitimized their story, nobody on the internet can point me in the right direction of where these tweets were located. I'm able to find various formats of the original tweets it was that they posted posted in regards to Mr. Riney rubbing their shoulders and being inappropriate, etc., etc., across an Android device as well as an iPhone device as well as on desktop. There are various different formatted screenshots in regards to those tweets, but anything of this person delegitimizing what it is that they've had to say about their experience with Mr. Riney in Byron Middle School and any red flags that people have seen, nobody can point me in the right direction. So if you do have those screenshots, because I'm not about to rule it out as not existing at all, if you do have those screenshots, please feel free to email me on this, because I don't have them and I have searched high and low across the whole internet to find them. And this is the most widespread rumor about this Morgan character that delegitimizes their story. Because from what I saw, I did not see Morgan change their story. In fact, they expanded on their story and even went as far as to dox their family members to prove their legitimacy. So that, alongside me being able to locate their friends, her business, her husband, their family, their pets, as well as their married name Instagram, I can wholeheartedly conclude that Morgan Redacted is exactly who they say they are. And what we have actually just witnessed and watched in real time is people discredit their claim and their experiences based on the proximity of those allegations to Trisha Paytas. Once again, bearing in mind that this person said that Mr. Riney was handsy with them as well as a few other girls, as well as the yearbook photo that Mysterious used also contained this Morgan person, as well as the friend from the group chat, Rachel Redacted, who remembers the allegations against Mr. Riney. Now, there was another receipt that was floating around on social media of a Facebook group where people were discussing Mr. Riney. And members of this group also validated Morgan's claims that Mr. Riney was found with adult content on his computer on school grounds. I was able to reach out to the member of this group, and they were able to show me screenshots as well as screen recordings about what was discussed, as well as proof of the group's legitimacy, and the post that existed talking about Trisha's allegations. The post, however, was taken down by moderators for public shaming, but this is a small, extremely small, Byron-based Facebook group with over 4,000, close to 5,000 members. Now, one member of the group, their name is William, is a public figure and they host their own radio show, and they even have websites detailing where you can find them across platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc., etc. And I debated on whether it was okay to speak about this person and to out them as a member of this group, as this person has information about themselves on public record and would be considered a public figure. However, I decided against leaving any further information besides his first name of William, as Morgan had left the internet entirely based upon the negative attention it was that they were receiving, and I didn't want to really be the catalyst of something else like that happening to another person. Anyway, so beyond the comments that were left on this post in this very small Byron-based Facebook group, there are 3 members of this group that was infiltrated. So here are what 3 members of the group that was infiltrated and what they said about Mr. Riney. It's clear to me that something did happen in regards to adult content, even if the handsy nature of Mr. Riney could not be corroborated further than Morgan. This is what members of the group have to say. So as you can see, it's kind of a bit of a mixed bag from the group, but I thought I'd include it just to show you guys fairness in my research. But one thing is for sure, some people remember this happening. Okay, so this is where things get super duper interesting, because in Mysterious's video they claimed that Byron was a small town with a small population and a low crime rate, and that Trisha's allegations of a teacher being inappropriate with them maybe could have happened once, but the chances of it happening 3 times is less than likely, as Trisha is alleging.
So statistically, I can see something like this happening one time to someone in a town like Byron, but 3 separate times by 3 different teachers to the same victim, it just seems impossible to me.
I wanted to know exactly the same thing as Mysterious. Why wasn't Mr. Riney's indiscretion, if true, why hasn't that stopped them from teaching? As Mr. Riney went on to teach at a plethora of different schools, as he discussed in his self-published book that I read called A Guy Named Charlie, My Refusal to Be Average. So when searching Google for Byron and essay allegations that have been reported of, I came across articles from the Chicago Tribune that talk about how the public school system in Illinois has been consistently failing to protect children and minors, aka students, from assault. I will leave both of the articles it is that I found down below. However, these are the most interesting excerpts that kind of explain the broken system in Illinois up until 2019 when this legislation came into place. Okay, so basically what happened was the Chicago Tribune launched an investigation into the misconduct, mainly misconduct, that was happening behind closed doors in the state of Illinois, most specifically Chicago. They found over 500 cases that weren't being dealt with properly or adequately. There is now a new legislation that came into place in 2019, which they hope will protect students from being abused by their teachers. I do have to preface this by saying that the investigation was conducted in Chicago, and over 520 students in Chicago alone had reported abuse cases. However, the effects of this investigation affects all of Illinois, as Illinois implemented this legislation statewide. The article reads as follows: and while the legislation does not directly increase public access to the disciplinary records of school employees in cases, it does offer more leeway to share information about workers with other school districts. Many states require superintendents to disclose an educator's past misconduct to prospective employers regardless of when it happened. Those laws are commonly referred to as pass the trash measures because they are meant to prevent problem educators from slipping quietly into the next district after meeting trouble with the last one. Illinois law currently prohibits school districts from disclosing employee records after 4 years have passed, including ones that show with students. The pending bill changes the law to specify that the 4-year look-back window doesn't apply to districts sharing information about employee misconduct to potential employers. So when Mysterious talks about statistically the chances of something like this happening more than once is unlikely, I would like to make a counter argument that statistically, Trisha being in Illinois through this period where there was no protection on the 4-year look back window was actually at a very huge disadvantage to everybody else in the US. So basically, at one point before 2019, which coincidentally happens to be the year of death for Mr. Riney, there was no standards statewide in Illinois and its districts for them to share information between each other of misconduct between teachers and students if 4 years have passed. That includes misconduct. In Mr. Riney's book, between the years of 1996 to 2004, that portion of his life was not discussed at all. And as I prefaced earlier on, his book is his life story. He jumps in his story from being at the Immaculate Conception High School in Cherokee, Iowa, to then speaking about his experience at Guilford High School in Rockford, Illinois in 2006. His time teaching at Byron Middle School was not documented in his book at all, almost as if it doesn't exist. Maybe he felt like there was nothing eventful that happened in that time period, but then I remembered that at the beginning of the video, in his acknowledgements, he stated that his wife Fran had helped him write this book. And then alarm bells started dinging in my head because I distinctly remember Trisha Paytas telling Ethan in the frenemies group chat conversation that they leaked that the family were unaware of the claim that they made as a minor and wanted the entire situation to go away. Now, Fran married Mr. Riney in 2009, as stated in the book. So if anything weird did happen in those time period, or he was reported or dismissed or anything of that nature, there was literally no way for her to have known anything about that situation unless he divulged that information to her himself. That was just a little tidbit. Think what you want to think, but it's definitely food for thought. Okay, so further to that, I wanted to see if there was any other documented instances of misconduct within Byron Middle School. Now, I may not have found anything to do with Byron Middle School themselves. However, I was able to find something in relation to Byron High School. Now, as you can see from this screenshot, the proximity of Byron Middle School and Byron High School is very close. They are literally across the road from each other and also share the same district as well as the same superintendent. So essentially, it's the same governing body. So there is an article from USA Today from November 25th, 2019 about a kid who brought a lawsuit against the Byron School District. The young man alleges that Jeffrey Boyer, who is the assistant coach and maths teacher, Sean Considine, the assistant coach and former Byron football star, James Kahn, the school's athletic director, as well as the school's principal, Jay Mullins, and the assistant principal, Michael Mansden, allegedly failed to fulfill their obligations to protect the student in a bullying and hazing case that actually ended with happening on their watch. Now, the boy had refused to take part a year previously in something that was widely publicized for the Byron High School, which was the Naked Oreo Run. Now, basically, the Naked Oreo Run was where all of these football players had to run across the school football ground naked with an Oreo wedged in between their butt cheeks, and anybody who dropped the Oreo had to eat the Oreo. But his refusal to take part in that situation a year previously then resulted in bullying and hazing that was administered by the students on the year anniversary of this whole entire situation happening. So what happened was, on the school coach coming back from another game, fellow student who was over the age of 18, so I can say his name, Richard Messling, placed his on the face of this student who they are now naming as John Doe. Now, it's alleged that Messling had actually led the Oreo run, but Messling did in fact hand himself over to the police and pled guilty to battery charges. This is what the lawyer that helped file the case against the district has to say. There is a pattern and practice of indifference that has been evident throughout my client's tenure at Byron High School, and that the bullying that has gone on has been a part of this code of silence for the sake of the football program, said Stephanie White, senior trial attorney for the Sandman, Levy and Petrich law firm of Chicago. The fact that the district would not take measures to follow their anti-bullying, anti-violence protocol in responding to incidents, and in fact target the student and make him a target when he does voice his concerns, has revealed itself since he started at Byron High School. Every time he spoke out, he was reprimanded or became the target of further incidents of being picked on, White said. So to me, there seems to be a culture still ongoing, at least until 2019, with the schools and the school's officials, as well as the school district, not protecting the students even in the face of bullying, hazing, and assault. And as the young boy who filed the complaint alleges, every single time that they would make a complaint about this situation, they ended up getting in trouble. Does that sound familiar?
The teacher said I was like asking for it, so it was like looked over.
Now, whilst I understand that people know Trisha Paytas as a pathological, habitual liar, I get that sometimes it's hard to defend somebody who has done so much wrong. But I think when we're talking about allegations, to keep an open mind. I've seen across social media that people are stating, well, Trisha Paytas lied about the fact that the teacher had CP on his computer. Why should we believe that he's her abuser? And whilst I completely understand that perspective of the boy who cries wolf, I want to pose to you guys another question. If Mysterious was wrong about their initial copyright claim with Trisha Paytas and Superbam, why should we believe their story? Or is it sometimes that people just get things wrong and the intent isn't always to mislead, but just simply make it right once you know, which is essentially all Trisha Paytas has to do. Let it be known publicly and not passively that this teacher was not found with CP on their computer, because there is absolutely no evidence of such. I can't help but feel that the alleged systemic silencing that Trisha Paytas has experienced from their family, straight through to members of society in positions of power, is why we have the toxic individual it is that we have today, who lies all the time because who cares? No one's going to believe them anyway. And honestly, that's what look for. They know to look for the most vulnerable people in society. They say that a good doesn't just groom its victim, it grooms the people around the victim. And if what Trisha Paytas is alleging about Mr. Riney is true, then I believe that waking up to thousands of people asking for justice for somebody that you named as your abuser could probably make you spiral, could probably break you. Another argument that people bring up is that, Mr. Riney is dead. Trisha Paytas lied on a dead man. And whilst I believe that most definitely what Trisha Paytas said was untrue, I don't believe it was an active lie. I remember when the late Jimmy Savile was found out to have abused so many people for 30 plus years. And the British public over here, we were in awe, in shock. Why didn't we notice? Why didn't we see the signs? This is the same guy who received an NBE from the Queen and was knighted by the Queen of England. He didn't just groom the victim, he groomed the whole country. Now, I'm not saying that Mr. Riney is a groomer in any way, but just the added perspective of, well, what if? Now, I am aware that there have been some contradictory statements that have been made by Trisha Paytas, stating that they have never been inappropriate with any of their teachers, that none of them harmed them or was with them in any way. But there are so many countless individuals out there at this current moment in time that protect their abusers. In fact, to support my thought process, I'd like to read out a few excerpts from an article by the Time's Up Foundation titled "Why Victims of SA Often Stay in Contact with Their Abusers and Other Key Facts of Trauma." Fact: for a variety of reasons, victims may remain friendly with their abusers. Most victims know their abuser, so it's not uncommon for survivors of SV at the hands of a professional acquaintance or an intimate partner to maintain contact with their abuser. Doing so does not mean that the victim consented in any way to the perpetrator's abusive behaviour. In addition, because of the complex ways in which SA and related coercion and abuse exploit power and control and thus undermines the victim's self-confidence and self-esteem, many victims struggle to break off contact. Victims sometimes cope by focusing on their perpetrator's loving side and shutting out the abuse, maintaining contact to elicit such affirmative behaviour from the abuser. Often, victims may blame themselves for the encounter and convince themselves, or might be convinced by the abuser, that the assault was not the way that they thought it was. Fact: it often takes time for survivors to report to anyone, let alone the authorities. There are many reasons why survivors do not disclose traumatic events until long after they occur. Failure to disclose SA immediately does not mean that it never happened. 3 out of 4 SA go unreported to the police. Our word is often the result of coercion and not physical force, and the survivors often need more time to reconcile what happened to them before coming forward, if they choose to do so at all. In addition, shame and stigma and fear of not being believed and or uncertainty about the consequences of engaging in a complicated judicial system tend to prevent SA survivors from reporting to the authorities. Fact: traumatic memories are vivid for victims whilst banal details are often forgotten. Traumatic events are processed differently than peripheral information about traumatic events. With extreme emotional arousal at the time of the traumatic event, people experiencing trauma often become narrowly focused on what is happening and therefore are more likely to remember it. In contrast, they often have a less clear and complete memories about other aspects of the traumatic event, such as the day of the week, the clothes they were wearing, etc., etc. Likewise, traumatic memories often come to mind as an involuntary and intrusive thoughts or ruminations replayed and rehearsed over an entire lifetime. Extraneous details and information, on the other hand, do not reappear as intrusive thoughts and ruminations, so they become easily forgotten, especially as time passes. We have seen so many instances that are detailed in this article that Trisha Paytas has displayed. Maintaining the contact with the abuser so they feel as if they consented. One survivor coming up first so they feel like it's appropriate for them to speak up. Disassociation, less clear and complete memories, misremembering parts of the assault, not disclosing the traumatic event years after it happened, and focusing on the perpetrator's loving side. And I, for one, don't want to go out into this world and say that I did not listen. Whether the allegations against Mr. Riney are true or not, we as a community are now speaking on something that has absolutely nothing to do with us and something that has never happened to us. The specifics of Trisha Paytas' situation, nor can we prove that it happened to Trisha or that it didn't happen to Trisha. And the only people or person who will is Trisha Paytas and, unfortunately, the late Mr. Riney. Anyway, that is about it from me and this little video essay to do with the whole Trisha Paytas saga. And I hope that you guys will at least try and understand my point of view. And if anything, regardless of what your thoughts are of Trisha Paytas, I hope that this video will at least make people a little bit more empathetic to the complicated world of SA. With that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day or evening, whatever the hell it is that you are doing. If you would like to support me and the channel, you can become a member. That always helps out. You guys will be able to see the streams as well as hitting notification and the bell so that you guys are always updated of when I stream and at what time. And also I have my own cosmetics company, so if you would like to purchase anything from my website, go over to www.dramaticboutique.com, and that's where I have all of the good stuff like my eyelashes and my palettes and stuff like that, so definitely go and check it out. With that being said, my affirmation for the day is: don't be impressed by money, followers, degrees and titles. Be impressed by kindness, integrity, humility and generosity. Until next time, you beautiful, amazing, badass bitches. It's been Paige. Bye.